Over the weekend, I was expecting a little bit more upside in the crypto side, and which we didn't quite get. So today I find myself after the weekly candle close between a rock and a hard place. So let's go through that rock and let's share that hard place with you, and let's get to the evidence. Now, we always know that show me the charts and I'll tell you the news. Well, typically look at this. So on the monthly time frame, we've got strong bearish divergence. Currently, price is testing the pivot of that divergence. So there's the two pivots. There's price, there's the higher high. So there's your strong bearish divergence, and price is testing it. So should we by Wednesday have bad news, higher CPI? It might mean that price will go and visit these levels, fall back in this range. Now, if the CPI figures come out favorably, this trend, there's absolutely nothing to say that this trend won't continue. And that's what makes it hard for me, because I find myself between a rock and a hard place. We're pivoting on monthly divergences. It's very hard to delete these kind of divergences. And if we were to zoom out and you would look at the last time we had something like that, monthly divergence at support. So are we here with the reality that something like this might happen? Or are we here and we're going to break down completely? And that's what makes it so hard. I don't have an answer for you guys on that. Now, if I take this information and I look towards Bitcoin to try and see what crypto is going to do, I need to go over to BTC on the weekly time frame. And what do we have the same now? We're at a critical area within this price action that's telling us that there's going to probably be some bickering over price. What do I mean by that? When Bitcoin created these trading ranges at these highs, this was the argument that Bitcoin was cheap at 30,000. This was the argument, but Bitcoin was expensive at, for the lack of a better price, 60,000. Okay. When price fell back to 30,000, people agreed with that and they bought. And when price broke above 60,000, people said, no, wait a little. I don't have any more money to buy. There was no new buyers coming to the table, and price fell back down. Subsequently, then we went back to the previous area, 30,000, to kind of make sure that that's as low as it's going to go. It failed, and this got turned into resistance. Now, this is a beautiful story, I know, but the reality behind the story is this is how support and resistance levels work. So what was support was lost, and when it came back to that area, the question was, is this still resistance now, or are we going to go higher? So there was a reluctance to buy. Price finally smashed through it on the idea of the spot ETF, and everything that's leading up to this was based on the fact that BlackRock going to get a spot ETF. Never, on the stats that they have only had in, I think, like 20 years on ETF filings, only had one rejection. So the stock markets, crypto, and everybody was saying on the back of that kind of stats, this is a really good thing that BlackRock is finally filing for an ETF, because most probably we're going to get it. Okay, and this is really good. This is really good for Bitcoin and maturity factor. But now if you look at this range and we just try and dissect where we were within that range, there was an additional point where people were bargaining around bearish and bullish sentiment. Okay, so at this stage, everybody buying on top of this was bullish and everybody selling below this was bearish. And you can see that there was a significance between that level. And now we're at that critical point. So everybody's waiting on everybody to do something, and nobody wants to do something because everybody's waiting for the news. That's the scary point of where we are at the moment. So the question that I'm asking myself today and trying to find out that the stock market is extremely bullish. NASDAQ is extremely bullish, just made all-time highs. Forget about the divergence. It's extremely bullish. Okay. CPI data is probably going to be favorable. And if we do get that spot BTC FDF, why not, instead of sell, surprise everybody and pump the hell out of this? But now this is the difficult part. When we look at BTC on the weekly, last week didn't close the way we were hoping it to do. Okay, so this is the first time in forever that on the weekly time frame, Bitcoin created a bearish pivot. What do I mean by that? Well, price made and closed higher high. Okay. And you can look at the wicks, because the wicks will normally just show it nice and easily. But the RSI has done the opposite. Now, let's forget about this for a second and zoom out completely and look at BTC bigger picture. And if you do that, and what I will do is I'll just swap to a different BTC pairing real quick to get that data for you guys. So if you do that and you look at this, every time the weekly time frame has gone into this area, we've had significant highs created, followed by long-term lows. Typically what happens at this stage, YouTube channels that says there's more, it's bullish, they do well, or do I give you guys the God to honest opinion and leave it with you, but probably then lose people because nobody wants to listen to a guy that says it's over. And that's why I'm a little bit conflicted today. Do your hodl bags a favor and subscribe today. Double down, hit that like and notification icon, and let's get charting. Now, guys, the good news is Bitcoin is not really given us a very clear break of structure. So what we were looking for is on price. When you break a structure, when you really want to short, you want to see price go and make a lower low of some sorts. We have not made a lower low yet. So when we look at the schematic, price goes high, low, higher, low, higher, low, higher, high, and then a lower low. That is the cue when price moves back into these high ranges to initiate your short. So at the moment, we are not there yet. So there's still hope. There's still a way that this can be deleted. So heading back to this chart and moving back to this version, let me just do that real quick. It's just going to load for a sec. So heading back to this version, we can still, within this daily, break out of this range and stay. So your eyes to remain bullish has to be that Bitcoin should not be trading this week below $4,400. And if it does, you're golden. Because then the potential is that it's going to want to keep fighting against these lines, like I've shown you, and potentially break out and go to the next target, where hopefully around 48 to 52 is where I see BTC really losing its steam. And this is things that go up tend to keep going up. That's it. So you just need to remember that. But if we want to get out at the top, it's always wise to question whether the go up is going to keep on going up for that matter. And that's what I'm trying to just explain to you guys there. Okay, this is the buyback target for Bonk, and I'm still holding by this. So we did here have a shakeout. We have not deleted hidden bullish divergence. So the RSI is retracing nicely and Bonk is sitting really good. If I head this over to the smaller time frames, you can see that on the smaller time frames, Bonk is doing what? It's making lower lows, but the RSI is starting to turn around in the opposite direction. So this is ultimately really good for Bonk. It's got a job to do, however. It needs to sweep the selling pressure, boom, and then potentially come back to this level. And I mean, with a price tag like that, it's really hard to pronounce what it is. And from that point onwards, we can go. So if you're not in it and you're unsure, there's always a second chance. Maybe it's not that exact line. It's going to be up there. It's fine big picture, because if you look at this thing big picture, memes really do well, especially in an environment where things does not look like they make any sense. So everything about SUI is bullish, but that yellow line is becoming a thou shall not cross line for me. And I'm just going to explain why briefly. So if you look at the way the price works, price will tend to be range bound, then break out of the range, and then continue on. Sometimes it falls back in the range. Now let me draw the ranges for you real quick. So there's a range between that, and you can see how price wants to move. Top of the range, bottom of the range, top of the range, midpoint, and then leave. Once it does, it normally fills the gap. What do I mean by that? Well, whatever happened at the top of this range, when it tops out, which it invariably always will do, that bottoms will kind of line up with that, creating the new range. So why am I bullish on SUI? Well, typically, if we're at the top of a range, boom, and if we're at the bottom of the range, boom, where am I supposed to be bullish? I'm supposed to be bullish here, and I'm supposed to be bearish there. We do have a wick. We had price stay above that wick, and now we are testing that wick. So the buy setup, which is and I just want to remind you guys, by no means a 100% guaranteed sure thing. There's always risk. Tells me that SUI is in the buy zone for that matter, for more upside. Now, why do I like SUI as well for more upside? Guys, this is a new project. It's not seen a bull cycle. This is your best chance for 100Xs as opposed to a Solana, which will then maybe give you a 10X as an example. So where would you want to have a bigger chunk of your portfolio? Celestia is very important. So I can explain to you guys from an Elliott wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Elliott wave structure. The argument is that between 2 and 4 is typically where your hidden bullish divergence kicks in. And the RSI goes lower, price stays higher, and we're good to go. And it had all those telltale signs. It broke out, but now yet again, like anything else, you can see that there is the current range. So the upside for this is bad because the momentum, the breakout momentum, was kind of met with a lack of enthusiasm. So this is the new ranges that we need to consider. This is the adjusted trend line, which is, just remember, if I were new to this, where would I have drawn it? I would have drawn it like that. So this is how retail, looking at this now, will look at it, okay? And if this is the case and we're falling back in this range, where is this thing going to want to go? It's going to want to go back to these ranges. So Celestia, if you don't bank, you're probably going to go back there. And we can range and chop and then break. Typically, guys, if we look at the week, we've just opened the week now. So I'm going to head over to BTC, the CME trade. Okay. I would love to see how this candle closes. I'm going to be honest with you. If I have this candle close in relation to this wick, so if we wick 50% in there and we back here tomorrow, the way that I'm going to be looking at this is going to be different than what it is today. So I just want to make sure and sit on my hands for one day and before I look at these alts, because I think there's going to be a better choice to be had if we do that. Guys, thanks so much for joining in. I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time, spending some time with me on YouTube. Even if you're not watching live, make sure to drop me a comment. I do like to respond to each and every one of them. This is me for today. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. You guys have a lovely Monday, and may the BTC ETF be approved. Things will be really cool if it does do that, in fact. You have a lovely day, and as always, keep hustling, my friends.